I looked at this many guitars and found 3 to 5 pretty good deals. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. The intro told you what you needed. I bought something from Guitar Center tonight. But let me tell you, I had a lot of fun looking at the $1,500 and under price point in the Gibson category. You can find some good stuff. Like, look at this. It's one of the Les Paul Gothics. It looks like it's absolutely beat up. But for $850, who cares if it's been modified? That's a pretty decent price on one of these. I mean, if this really bothers you, you could touch it up. I mean, as long as there's not a headstock repair, I think you're in the clear. It even has a case. The next one of our curated listings, I had to click it because I didn't know what it was. I've got to tell you, looking at it now, I still don't know exactly what it started life as. It nearly looks like a late 80s melody maker that somebody's modified to have dual EMG pickups in it, but it's got vintage Norland era style knobs. Those are worth like $100 to $200 right there. We can't quite see too much in this back photo, but oh. Interesting. This actually tells me a lot. So this looks like a 2000s-ish special, as they called them, but somebody's leather wrapped this. Okay, yeah, now I see it. That is fascinating. No mention of a case, but somebody in the comments of our last guitar hunting episode left a pro tip for us. If you're questioning, what on earth is this thing, and serial numbers mean something to you, you can add it to your cart, and then you can actually find out the serial number within their database. So we know it's a 1998 something. It might have started life as like the Les Paul Special SL series. They had that comfort cut. Everything else is a pretty close match here. So whether you want to buy it or not, I think we can all agree it's interesting. Next up, we got a The Paul 2. I do want to document one of these, but I'm waiting for like a $700 deal on a nice one. This one doesn't appear to be in too bad a shape. They listed it as great condition. $949 honestly isn't that bad in today's market. It was part of the All-American series, but these initially had uncovered pickups. So we've got two situations here. Either the pickups have been replaced or somebody just put nickel covers to mix match with our chrome. If we're being frank, I think it looks pretty good. But here's another pro tip if you're buying from Guitar Center. I like how they've made this so much more obvious. They just used to say listed at this one and then you had to look up the phone number. Just call them. They can text you photos or they can give you an in-hand description. This one's new too. You can email. Next up, I picked out this Les Paul CM. The Chucker Mod Chick Magnet model. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, check out the review and demo. You used to be able to pick these things up for like $500, $600. Not so much anymore. They've become scarce. However, once you start paying $1,000 for one of those, there are other alternatives you might consider first. This next one caught my attention because look at that super price drop. $400 down, $1,000 total. I don't know what it is about vintage The Paul models, but the rare colors don't quite fetch as much as the common ones. It's like, here we go, ebony finish. That is a rare color on one of these because they're typically a natural. And this one's got lots of wear and tear. Somebody's worn through here. It looks like we've got some sticker residue of something on there. Actually, that might have been a whole pick guard. Nearly looks like the shape of Texas. And we can't quite verify our pickups here, but knobs look good. That's one of the weird ones with the harmonica bridge. Occasionally those came stock with that. And look at this Guitar Center taking a photo with the case. Those guys are good. Got some wear through areas here. I mean, if you can call them up, verify those are Tim Shaw PAFs, because it should be. It's a 1981. Just those pickups are worth about $500 themselves. So if you're looking for a husk project, buy that, sell all the vintage parts off of it, and you got a great candidate. Then I was excited to see one of these, the S-Series Les Paul Custom 2017. I once made an episode that said it's the Gibson that nobody talks about, but they should. Because on the back of this, it has the Les Paul Modern heel carve, but yet these things were like $700 brand new. You don't find these very often. A lot of people just blew off the whole Firebird Zero M2 type lineup guitars and didn't really pay attention enough to these. I've seen them sell for more on Reverb, so $1,000. If you're looking for one of those, not too bad. Speaking of the Pauls though, here's a 78, nice first year production. Looks like somebody put a brass nut on, very apropos for the times. Looks like a original neck pickup, although the bridge pickup is suspect because typically you would only find that combination in a VSG, and those weren't birthed yet. You know it plays good if it's got that much wear. And check it, old school strap locks. That's a pretty solid stage 3, not quite there to 4 yet in my opinion. And I was surprised to see this. I think we looked at it last episode, but they just marked the price down $100. So this is not a vintage L6S, it's one of the reissues. And I would not mind having one in my collection. And that's pretty easy to touch up, but I think I'll wait for a different one. This photo was too funny not to share. SG Raw Power, awesome model, right? We documented the Les Paul Raw Power. But this is a very A very unfortunate photo. What's going on here? eBay uses a tool like this. They try to remove the background to make it look professional, and then they accidentally remove things of the guitar. But have no fear, it's not headless. Here's a better photo. But does anybody recognize this signature? But hey, speaking of a different one, here is a different one. But unfortunately, the photos lack detail, and I'm not that motivated to buy one of these tonight. But I really wanted to figure out what this thing was, because the headstock's looking pretty good, regular Gibson USA production. Looks like somebody's replaced our nut, not that big of a deal, but it doesn't look like it was installed the greatest. Still have the original frets yet, and we've got the binding, so it likely means it was a standard, which means somebody's probably replaced our pickups, because they're uncovered. And then, okay, somebody just added the vibrola plate on here, Derek Truck style, to look fancy. It doesn't actually have a trem system. And our tuners have been upgraded. Oh wow, that is a newer one, 2021. So that means it started life as one of these for 18. So $600 off, and you get a cool vibrola plate on it. I understand that's to taste, but I would assume it's all been like set up really nicely. As a player's mod, I could see that appealing to someone. I almost want to call that a deal. But here's another one that confused me a bit. So it's listed a little over $1,250. They say it's a 2011, but is that a flame maple top? Wow, is this one of the Studio Pluses? Or is it a model that's not supposed to have a flame top, but it just happens to have it? Like maybe this was a Futura that they routed the P90 out for a humbucker and they stripped the finish. But no, apparently it was a real model. I'd never heard of the Studio Pro Plus before today. It kind of gives me Slash vibes. I like it. Paint it red on the top and you're pretty close to the first one. And to follow that up, look at this one. Now this is a model I have heard of. There's a few different select colors within this lineup, and they've just got these unmarked ebony fretboards. They look great. Now I do believe somebody's added our custom pickguard on here. It's got some bruises, but maybe call them up, see if you can get it for $1,000, and I think you'll be happy. And now here's one I'm interested in buying, a Les Paul Menace. You don't see these show up on Reverb too often anymore. They have it listed as great, shy of $1,400. The photos aren't really doing this one any justice. I see a small ding right there. These were satin finishes, so that's why it looks weird up here. The I Love Mom Gibson tattoo logo. Got your sweet brass inlay of knuckles. But why I like these is the fact that the edges are also routed. There's an SG version of this out there too, but somebody has unfortunately replaced our pickups. These make great modding guitars. Some people will accent the cutaway areas instead of just leaving them black, like I've seen an orange one. I've also seen somebody do a really cool green. For someone who just wants one to play it and doesn't care about originality, that's a pretty fair price. But here's another model you don't see every day. They list it as a Smartwood Studio. But if you're specifically looking for the Smartwood Studio that's Swamp Ash, you gotta be careful because there were a lot of those made that were not within the Smartwood series. This one's got some pretty nice wood grain, and I enjoy ash-bodied Gibsons because you don't see it too often. But hey, we had just reviewed one of these, the Les Paul Platinum. This is what I was talking about in that episode. Sometimes people take them and modify them. What they've done here is recreated a 1982 model called the Silver Streak. This one still has a great vibe without being like overly roboto. And judging by the shine on our top carve, somebody's definitely buffed that up into a semi-gloss. It looks pretty sweet. A fair deal, as long as we've got the original case. If they stole the case, you want to haggle a bit more. But if you want the original platinum hardware, there's also another one here for $15, but it's in the gloss black finish. But oh, $1,500. I know we've talked about these, but about 2 years ago, somebody shared with me the Paul Firebrand in Candy Apple Red with stock gold hardware that said Custom Shop Edition on the back. And that's a guitar I would not mind adding to my collection, because the average buyer would just look at this and go, nah, it didn't ship with these style knobs, it didn't have gold hardware, they had exposed pickups. But no, these knobs right here, that's what they used on the prehistoric reissues and spotlight specials. The harmonica bridge, as we discussed earlier, were used on some of these, mainly to use up parts. Ouch. This one's had a heel break. That's not common on a Les Paul, but hey, we can't see the silver base coat, so it is confirmed Candy Apple Red. And hey, yep, there it is. Custom Shop Edition. It was made on the same production line as everything else, but it was a limited edition of some sort. They even upgraded it to the Schaller M6 tuners, like as a model, and we got another big crack here. In fact, the only thing that looks replaced are strap buttons, because it would have originally had the posi locks. Oh, that hurts. It was recent. I hope that wasn't the same one that was shared to me a few years ago. They also have one of these SG3s. Yeah, it's an ash body with 3 rail style pickups. Of the 3 Guitar of the Week SGs that look very similar, it's my favorite because of the ash body. Then we got this Midtown bass. But now, I got lucky on this deal, my friends. This is the guitar I bought that sparked this episode. When I was doing research for my Ash Body X-Plorer Studio, I ran across this listing and I was like, really? Really? $1,650? That's not too bad for one of those. And it just happened to be the one with the doofy mini humbuckers that most people probably would not prefer over the regular humbucker versions, but as a collector and documenter of cool guitars, this is exactly what I wanted next. Currently, the only one on Reverb was $4,000, which granted, it's the cool yellow finish, but I don't think these things fetch that much quite yet. Typically, when they get listed, it's usually around 25-ish. But I looked through the photos, I thought, you know what, this actually looks pretty decent. So I called up the shop. Because you know me, I buy professionally, I always want a deal. And typically, Guitar Center will not cut you a deal on used inventory unless it has sat. And that's exactly what the guy on the phone told me. Sorry, can't touch the price unless it's been here for 90 days. So then I asked, how long has it been there? And I got lucky. It was 3 days past the 3-month mark, so they were able to mark it down $100. So I picked this thing up. Hopefully it's the condition that I want and I can just keep it, because he even said it has the original Gibson case. And he also told me a humorous tale. Him and another employee were having a chat and he thought, nobody's ever gonna buy this dumb thing. He's like, hey, just you wait. The right buyer is going to come one day. And then 5 minutes later, here I am on the phone. But he says it sounds surprisingly good, so look forward to that review and demo soon. But here's another obscure model. I think I documented one of these a long time ago. It's kind of within the same family of a Sonics artist, but if I remember correctly, it has the real wood body. It's been a while. It's one of those Moog-equipped guitars that did not sell well, just there to use up the parts. But here's a 2016 ES Les Paul Special, $1,700, not a bad deal on one of these. The best thing about them is they got the baked maple fretboards. They're so smooth. I've reviewed a few of these. This is not the flame top version, but this is a good deal for someone, assuming it has a case. There's one of those cool Starburst acoustics, the EC20. They're kind of Les Paul shaped. I just like them because they have the star inlays. Makes them unique. Of course, I had to click on this. Vintage. They're really calling 1999 vintage. I like eBay's definition. 30 years old becomes vintage, and 100 plus is antique. But this caught my attention because they said Korina solid body. Very few Gibson Korina guitars that are gonna sell for that price. But this is one of the V98 styles. It blends 67 and 58 specs. It's mainly 67, but you do get this little output jack thing here, 58 style, as well as your layout here. So that's probably why they thought this might have been Korina, but no, that's just mahogany. Definitely mahogany, but a pretty cool limited edition. If you can wait them out till 15, that is a good deal. They also have the other color that was offered. Kind of hard to see, but it's like a honey burst. I was surprised how many Longhorns they had. People always ask tons of money for these things on Reverb, but they don't sell. Here's another one at 21. This is a really good deal. Somebody needs to jump on that. $2,000 for a Holy V. Granted, we don't have much to go off of condition, but call them up. That is a screaming deal for one of those. I love those guitars. Check out my review here. This was another really cool find, a little Lucille. It was a BB King version of the Blues Hawk, which is honestly kind of cool. It's got the TP6, it's got the Veritone, it's got your fancy inlays with binding. Looks like somebody's replaced the nut on that one, but I've seen those list for a lot more than that. They had one of the cool Army Green SGXs. It's a little bit expensive, but a particular collector might take that one home. They also had the last guitar of the week guitar, the Silverburst RD, except for somebody changed our pickups. They must be a Fluff fan. And then this thing freaked me out. It's one of the high performance guitars, right? Usually you see them like this. You got pickup covers. Somebody took the covers off and or replaced the pickups. It looks so strange when they're uncovered like that. They had the Les Paul Classic Rock Top. This is the turquoise one. 23 is not that bad of a price. I've been hoping to find one around 15. And then I couldn't help but not click on this thing. 1970s Les Paul Deluxe. Looking like this? So I think, what are those? Their name slips me right now, but I do believe DiMarzio made them, and they're currently called Tone Zone P90s. It's basically a humbucker in the shape of a P90. So that's how people revamp these Deluxes with more power. And then they threw a Kaler on it. They really played it. It's got finish checking all over. It looks like the original knobs yet. Might have been refretted, kind of hard to tell with this photo quality. Okay, here we go, we got a better photo. Yeah, those look like the original frets. And oh, hey, clear pick guard. we need to figure out what year this is, because in the 80s, a white deluxe is a thing. However, in the 70s, it's a very rare thing. The last white 75 deluxe listed for $9,000, and apparently there's only like 7 of them. Yeah, it's not as cool as the sparkle tops, but they fetch similar price ranges. Yeah, that's really rare. This is a loyal viewers hour moment. We gotta see the rest of this. Headstock's looking about what I would expect. Darn. It was most likely refinished at some point in time. That's the only reason why you would have a flaked finish right there, but they did a good job relicking it to make it look like the real deal. But to end out our episode, we hit the $2,500 threshold. You don't see one of these every day. It's the XPL double cut. So back when I reviewed my Aldo Nova, which is the single cut XPL reissue Les Paul, I had one of these in red, but I had to take the Tim Shaws out of there to restore my Aldo. So I just never did that review because it's like, well, I don't have the original pickups anymore. And I was strapped on time. I should have reviewed that, then did that, but oh well. Because finding these in the stop bar variety is pretty tricky, but if you don't mind the Kaler, this actually appears to be in pretty decent shape. But again, call the store for information. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed hunting Guitar Center with me. This is not a sponsored episode. Again, I just found a good deal on that Explorer and wanted to see if I was missing out on anything else. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.